Yeah. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm Shimrith Pearlin Priscilla from the PGD and General Management batch of 2026 to 27, XLRI Jamshedpur. We are recording at Fulcrum 6.0, our consulting conclave, where we are looking at how the consulting industry is navigating disruption, resilience, and the strategic transformation. Joining us is Mr. Ankur Mittal, co-founder and CEO of Axeno Consulting, a customer experience studio he has been building for the past 13 years across UX technology, innovation, and cloud operations. He is also the founder and the head of strategy at SwiftX, a AI-led revenue orchestration platform, recently selected for the 10th cohort of the Maruti Suzuki Accelerator program. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Shimrith. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me over. Really glad. Actually, it's almost a bit like a nostalgia going to any campus after 15 years and talking to students, amazing ideas. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. There was a lot in the introduction, right? So I want to pack it one at a time.
Mhm.
And I'd like to start with how you'd like to describe yourself, because your headline basically put together leadership, consulting mindset, and the entrepreneurial agility.
Mhm.
These three things may not practically go together. On a very hard day, which one do you find yourself leaning on the most?
Um, okay, that's a good question. I think the agility, the nimbleness of an entrepreneur is what I definitely lean towards. I any day or any hard day in the organization does not really come with a lot of structure, a lot of information. So you have to react to the situation as it presents yourself, and that agility and that gut instinct of an entrepreneur, what to do at that moment, is far more valuable for me than anything else. Often, people keep on seeking clarity, information, structure, and by the time it presents, it's already too late. So you have to pivot quickly. And I tell this in my organization also. Like we have to pivot every 7 days. Think quickly, act quickly, and then look at the data, what it's telling you, and maybe then again pivot if you have to take a directional change. That's what I go for.
It's a really interesting way of looking at it. And you have been building Axeno for the past more than a decade. When you look back at day one, how does the version of customer experience that you believed is comparing to to what you have today?
Sure, that's an interesting question. I think there has been a massive evolution for me personally as well. So, like yourself, I also started my career from campus placement into Deloitte USI. Um, I was really fortunate that I got like really amazing mentors and managers. They put me in the right technology. Um, the thing that I started working on was a CMS, basically content management system. Sorry, I'm going to be a bit longer, but there is a context to it. So we happened to work on Adobe platforms, and what I realized while working on that is Adobe does really amazing good storytelling, right? They really present information in a very clean, decent, and something that anybody can comprehend, right? So that helped me kind of understand what consumer experience is. How do you communicate? What does effective communication mean? And of course, Deloitte also nurtured it a lot. So when I came out, for me, what actually meant customer experience is the presentation layer, the UX. But now, with working with organization deeply, understanding the processes, understanding the people, understanding the organizational behavior, now I think consumer experience or customer experience is actually outcome of a lot of things combined: technology, processes, organizational readiness, behavior, your platforms, your user experience, of course. That's what basically that's how everything presents. But until you are also ready with all the other factors, your processes, your organizational readiness, I don't think you can achieve a great customer experience.
That is a key insight there. And thank you for touching on the Deloitte experience. And that's something I wanted to ask you as well. We both started a career at Deloitte. Um, what's one thing that in the early years at Deloitte that quietly shaped to the person that you are right now?
I think the calmness. My man. So okay. So when we got in initial boot camp and training, we were put in a off-campus site, and we got some training on coding skills and stuff like that. And I was put into a practice, and but most of my friends from my campus were going to a different practice, and I panicked. I went to my manager and said, "Can I be moved to that other practice?" And it's like, "Okay, why?" I actually had no reason. It was just that FOMO that why my all the friends are kind of going into that direction, and I had otherwise no data to kind of say. So I was in that angst or that panic mode, and that's where my manager told me, okay, take 30 days. First, calm yourself down. Understand what you are doing. What is the impact you are creating, and if post that you feel that you want to be on the other side with enough data and reason, please do so. It's absolutely okay. So I got like practical learning into first being calm in any situation, and then bringing in structure to any problem. That's something that I learned, and it still kind of goes with me all along the way, which helps me kind of react to any kind of situation in a much mature way than otherwise what I would have done.
That is a very practical takeaway because I also completely relate to it. Having working with wide range of people, your friends don't always go along with you. You'll have to adapt and improvise. So now I'd like to ask something about your day-to-day life because you're not just running one thing, you're running two. Axeno as CEO and Swiftex as a founder and head of strategy. How do you personally divide your time and attention and energy between these two? And can you also tell us if there was an early moment that defined the company and how it actually changed you?
Okay. It's an interesting one and a funny one. If my wife would have been sitting, she would have asked me like, "How do you divide your time in three?" I've got like three babies. Axeno and Swiftex for me are not really unrelated business. Swiftex actually came out of Axeno when we set out this I guess sale to solve customer experience, CX transformation. We saw some problems. Typically what consulting teaches you, and again nothing against consulting, is to create models and framework wherever you are doing rinse and repeat. What I thought is, the real achievement would be to productize it, make it self-sufficient. Let again, I'm going to go towards a over-abused term, AI, solve that problem on its own, while we continue to kind of explore the depths of consumer experience, customer experience, enterprise processes. So since Swiftex came out of Axeno, for me, these are two not really unrelated business. Now, Axeno for last couple of years has been, my aim has been to kind of put it on autopilot, build leadership, build organizational readiness, and that's how even Abhimanyu joined us as chief of staff. The idea is to kind of build a organizational OS in Axeno so that my time is not needed anymore. So I only look into strategy. I look into how to build future leaders, and then I spend a lot of my time in Swiftex on product strategy because that's something driving my core passion. Solving a problem and building it into a product, packaging it in a way that people can also perceive it the way you feel it. We typically have our horse blinkers on, in consulting, and you think like the best, but when you actually go to your customer, you realize that you hardly know anything. So how do you communicate with the product the same problem and solve it is truly amazing. So that's how I kind of split my time, and then whatever is left goes to my son.
That is a key takeaway, I would say, because reality is far, far from the theories that's on paper. So I want to quickly focus a little bit more on SwiftX. You focus a lot on GTM strategy, pricing, and adoption for a product team. What feels different about advertising a product-led company on a strategy versus a service-based company like Axeno?
Oh, very, very different. In a services company, first of all, I mean, you're talking about GTM strategy, pricing, and positioning. But services company typically solves problem with people, right? You put talented people, and sometimes even if there are complexities, you can solve that with really good talented people who have been there, done there, solve that problem already. But in a product company, making a change, if you're positioning or if you're the problem that you're solving is, let's say, had been perceived wrong, is difficult. It's difficult to kind of pivot in a different direction. While AI has made pivoting and changing easy, but still there is a cost to it, right? There is a human cost to it. Okay, let's say even if there is AI, there is a huge token cost as well, right? So now speaking of GTM, when we talk about services or our positioning or pricing, we focus on the value in that process. Let's say if we are going to be solving a marketer's problem on let's say return on ad spend, right? So we focus on the outcome that this team is going to deliver over the period of next 6 months. We are going to do diagnostic of the problem. We are going to analyze their data. We are going to understand where the problem really is. So what I'm trying to say is, you do the diagnostics at the customer's cost. There is no shame in that. And ultimately, then you basically analyze it and tell them, okay, this is how we are going to solve it, right? Whereas in a product, you have to almost preconceive the problem, look at a lot of data and figure out a problem that actually needs solving. That is also often a founder's problem, that you think every problems need a solution, but often that's not the case. So you have to think of a problem which really requires investment to be made to get it solved, right? Because sorry, it's not just that you need solution to a problem, but is it worth the investment, right? So when you present the go to market or the pricing for a product, you also have to be conscious that is it giving that value back to the customer, and that value has to. So gone are the times where you say, okay, let's look at 5-year TCO. You have to really deliver the value within 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, right? So if your product is not giving that incremental value on the day one, it has been adopted, and I'm using that word adopted because adoption is also a major issue when it comes to positioning product. So actually it would be very difficult to then sell, right? So a lot of those factors goes into product pricing in GTM, whereas services is comparatively easier because customer themselves discloses the problem for your consulting hours.
Okay. You spoke a lot about dealing with people and the cost that comes attached to it. So you've been leading a company for the past 30 years, and your company also emphasizes on putting the employees first, which could be very easy to say but expensive to do so. Was there any particular decision that you took in the past that put your employees first that cost you the business a little bit on the short term? And also, since you've been running the company for a longer time, there could have been other instances where equivalent call has to be made to the clients as well. Like, what is your general rule of thumb for saying no to revenue?
So I think I'll answer the second question first. My thumb rule for saying no is anything which basically creates toxicity for us, or takes disproportionate time of leadership, or creates Bad experience for our people, for me, is a bad revenue. Typically, bad revenue, in the short term might look nicer, but in the longer term, it always hurts more. So that's my thumb rule. Now going back to the past, for me, I'm a very people person. I guess runs in my blood. My dad was a government servant, so he always was surrounded by people, like any government servant's job is. And what I learned from my dad, and luckily, that's what kind of transition for me when I was in Deloitte as well. A very people first culture, at least the ODC I was part of was very very people first. And I feel then any problem what may come, if you are operating like a family, you can solve it. So yes, we have taken decisions where we have say said no to a customer, or we have literally ended a contract because it was becoming too toxic or too difficult. Because you have to retain good talent, you cannot let good talent go. And if you have the right culture, right people, right processes, good revenue automatically follows. You don't have to do anything. That's what my philosophy is.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate the honesty, and that sounded a little bit more demanding.
Mhm.
But so let's now try to steer the conversation a little more student friendly, since
Sure.
we are at the campus. Um, for someone who eventually wants to start their company rather than climbing the corporate ladder, what do you think an MBA prepares them for?
Yeah, so you asked me this question in the lobby as well. So I'm not an MBA, so I really can't answer. And in fact, yesterday, Professor Sunil was also asking me something around that, and I told him the same thing. I don't know what your curriculum looks like, but okay, this is what I look for when we hire an MBA, is structured thinking and curiosity. Often when you learn these frameworks, models, it kills curiosity. Not everywhere, but that's one of the symptoms of learning too much structure and too much processes is. And hence this is what I look for, like what have the people retained curiosity, or now their glass is so full that they have seen so much in the case studies that they are trying to apply the same frameworks into any problem they are solving. It does help, when you know structure, when you know processes, you know frameworks, you know models. But at the same time, every problem is different, every market is different, every consumer is different. So you have to give it your enough commitment, your enough empathy to understand them, as is. Even in the home, let's say if you are, earlier it used to be big families, now it's very nuclear. But when people used to have 5 6 7 brothers sisters, everyone is different, and you gave them that respect, that I will treat you the way you are, and I'll not try to change you, and I'll not try to apply what worked for, let's say, my one of the brothers or sisters with you as well, right? You treated them differently. So that's what customer experience, and that's what entrepreneurship also demands, that keep your curiosity, keep your empathy, and then bring in your structure and discipline from MBA, apply that. That's a deadly combination for me.
That is a key insight there. Thank you so much, sir. Um, you briefly touched upon what like curious students you are looking for. Is there a particular green flag and red flag that you're looking for when you're trying to hire students from MBA?
Yeah, for me, green flag is clear communication. I hate heavy jargons. I mean, that's me personally. Others might have a different expectation from MBA, but this is my personal thing. Um, I'm a storyteller. I mean, that's what I learned. And hence, you can communicate very complex problems very simply, also, right? And simple is what people understand. If you make complex more complex with more complex verbiage, it's not helping anybody. It's maybe looking or justifying your 20,000 rupees suit, what you're wearing. But at the same time, the problem remains the same. So one is clear communication, effective communication, not just clear, effective communication. Second is, so whenever we kind of do interviews, we ask people to kind of work on a case, like give them a problem, and that problem is typically what is really ours. So we don't take a problem from the market and say, okay, why can't you solve it? We take a problem from Axeno and say, okay, can you come back with something? Why we do that is because when the person comes back with a solution, we are not operating on a hypothesis. We are talking about the real problem, and then we tell them, okay, these are the elements which you have not thought about. So and that curiosity actually drives that. Like, you need to kind of ask questions. People who typically just follow a problem statement without even understanding or going to the depth of it is again a bit of a red flag for us. And on the other hand, that curiosity is becomes a green flag, and that empathy and effective communication becomes a green flag.
Thank you so much for now the students would also have a clear understanding of what to prepare and what not.
Sure.
So we are nearing the end, and since we both were Scrum Masters once, like, I'll try to keep it time boxed.
Sure.
But I like to close with a couple of questions that is a bit more personal.
Sure.
If you could hand your first day as a founder into a 2-page note, what would the headline be?
First of all, 2-page note I would never read, even today. Yeah, the headline probably, that's a good question. Build an institution, don't build a business. What does it mean is, I learned it the hard way that you have to create leaders day one. You can't start building a business and then eventually think of, okay, let's build leaders now because we need it. So I think, yeah, build institution, not business, would be the headline of that.
Thank you. On a final note, if you want to give one piece of advice that you got early on but did not appreciate at that point of a time, but would like to pass it on to the next set of people, what would it be?
Yeah, I think this is an advice that every kid would have gotten from their parents. And I don't know, I mean, everyone is built different, but I did not appreciate it that time, which was be frugal. Build leaner, don't be flamboyant, don't be a spendthrift. But now I acknowledge the value of compounding. I'm sure you guys also learn about it. Compounding goes a long way. And you don't necessarily need to kind of, and this is, by the way, what we see with our customers also. Sometimes there is a small problem. Just to justify the budget of buying something big, you just make the problem complex, so that you can institutionally tell your board or investors why we need money for this. So you can solve those problems frugally, right? So that's one thing that I have learned the hard way.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So,
Sure.
financial management, I think it's a topic that needs to be taught to students
Absolutely.
early on in their lives, and we shouldn't be paying lakhs and lakhs of rupees to be studying financial management.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you for sharing your journey with us, sir, and you brought such thoughtful perceptions with us at Fulcrum 6.0. There's truly been a pleasure to having you here on this podcast. We wish you and the team continued success.
Thank you so much, Shimrith. Thank you for asking me those amazing questions.